Hello, everyone. On this podcast episode, I'm going to talk about an aspect of duality, you know, and try to explain God as well. So, in many episodes prior to this one, I tell you this because I don't like to explain too much each episode, and I've already, this is like the 300th plus episode. I've already explained this many times, duality many times in the previous episodes. So I try to make it short each episode. I try not to say the same thing I said before in a different episode, and I try to explain duality in a different way, or at least using different examples. So in this example, I'm going to explain how the world was created, how the world creates things, right? First of all, we're going to start with what duality is. If one aspect of the world is true, its equal and opposite is true. That's what duality is. If one aspect of the world is possible, its equal and opposite is also possible. Why? Because if both opposites don't exist, if one opposite disappears, the other disappears as well. As in, when God created the world, all possibilities were created at once. Meaning God created the world with all opposites as rules. When God created the rules that govern this world, creating a world means creating rules that govern it. Because when you create something, you do what? You add rules that govern how it behaves, how it acts, a purpose and a function. You give it a purpose and a function. When you create something, the process of creating something is a process of putting rules, logical rules that govern how everything works. And when you create a world, it's the exact same thing. You must put rules in place that govern how everything works. Otherwise, there's no such thing as a world if there aren't rules. That's why our world is governed by scientific rules, because a world can't exist without rules. When you create a video game, right? The process of creating a video game is what? Creating logical rules that govern how the world behaves in the video game, the players, the characters, how you win the game, how you lose the game. You have to, when you create something, you have to, you put rules in place that govern how the thing behaves. That's how creation works. The act of creating something is the act of creating rules. That's why our world is a world governed by rules, because the world can only exist because of rules. Rules that govern everything from the smallest thing to the largest thing. Rules govern everything. Even when you're creating a car, there are rules that govern how the car is shaped. You must put rules in place that govern how the car is shaped. Shaping and molding the car, right, is implying, is imposing rules on it, is applying rules to it. You're applying rules to how the car will be shaped. And then the inside of the car, you have to put rules that govern how the inside of the car will look. And then how the car will behave, what you're going to use the car for, the rules that govern how or what is allowed for the car to do or what it can do. That's, just the process of creating anything is the process of, adding rules, creating rules that govern everything. The act of creation is the act of, of creating rules. So how does this apply to this world? When God created this world, God created rules within himself. God created this world by creating rules within himself. And the rule is, this is a world of duality. If one aspect of the world is true, its equal and opposite is also true. If the past is real, the future must also be real. Past and future are equal and opposites. The reason why you have to have two is because you can't explain the past without the future. There's no such thing as the past without the future. There's no such thing as tall without large. There's no such thing as potential energy without its equal and opposite, kinetic energy. You can't explain what potential energy is without kinetic energy, its equal and opposite. You can't explain what movement is without non-movement. You can't explain the past without the future. You can't explain something that's alive without something that's not alive as a reference point. You can't explain something that's round without something that's not round as a reference point. Our world is a world of duality, a world of opposites. And the rule that I wanted to explain in this episode is all opposites exist simultaneously as one, as in the past and the future are one. What you call the past is also the future. The only reason why we have the future, a definite future in the past, is based off perspective, because all opposites exist simultaneously as one, right? The past and the future are one. So the only thing that makes us realize what the past is perspective. From the perspective of this current moment, right? The past is the past. But from the perspective of people living in the past, they're currently what? In the future. There's a past behind them. Likewise, this current moment, from the perspective of those in the future, is in the past. But for us, from our perspective, we're currently in the future and there's a past behind us. Perspective determines what's the past and what's the future, because all opposites exist simultaneously as one. This very moment right now is both the past and the future. Because it's both the past and the future, perspective determines whether it's the past or the future. You get to choose. Are we currently in the past or are we currently in the future? Because we are both, you get to choose which one we are. Same with alive and dead. Are human beings alive? Are human beings living things? Or are they the equal and opposite, non-living things? Right? What do you think human beings are? Scientifically, we only see one perspective, that human beings are living things. We don't see the equal and opposite. And the equal and opposite is also true. If one aspect of the world is true, its equal and opposite is also true. Human beings are not living things. And let me give you a fact. Let me explain to you why. Human beings are made up of atoms. And scientifically, atoms aren't living things. If human beings are made up of atoms, and only atoms, and atoms aren't living things, then human beings aren't living things. Or you can see the equal and opposite. Because human beings are living things, then atoms are alive as well. Because the only thing that makes up a human body are atoms. That's all. Atoms are the things that make up the human body, right? Because human beings are both alive and not alive at the same time. Scientists get to choose. Are human beings really alive or not? Most people will say yes, we are alive. Most people say no, we are not alive. We're just a bunch of atoms. Some people will say we're just a bunch of atoms. And some people will say we're more than atoms. We're living human beings. Human beings are human, right? Since human beings are human, the equal and opposite is also true. Human beings are not human. Why? Because atoms are not human. The atoms inside our bodies are the same generic atoms you find everywhere else. So atoms are not human beings. And if atoms aren't human beings, then human beings are nothing more than atoms. We are not human beings. You see how this one works? All opposites exist simultaneously as one. Just like movement. Something that's moving, it's only moving from one perspective. From another perspective, it doesn't move at all. Human beings, when you lay down and go to sleep at night and stay still, you're considered not moving. Scientifically, your body isn't moving, right? If that aspect is true, that when you lay down and go to sleep, that you're not moving, the equal and opposite is also true. You're always moving. And it's a fact. Scientifically, atoms never stand still. Atoms are always vibrating. They're always moving. And the human body is made up of what? Atoms. So while a human body appears to be standing still, the equal and opposite is also true. The inside of a human body is always moving. It's always vibrating. Your blood is always pumping through your veins. Your cells are always feeding information with each other. They're sending signals. They're always busy doing something. Your body is constantly moving. That's why you appear as if you don't move. It's because your body is alive and is always moving. That's why you can go to sleep and stay still. Even when you're dead, it's the same thing. Even when you're dead, it's the same thing. You may appear as if you're not moving, but inside your body is deteriorating. Your body is always moving. Bacteria are breaking down your system. A lot of things are happening inside your body. Although you appear to be standing still or laying down still, you're still moving. Movement and non-movement are equal and opposites, and they exist simultaneously as one. Because they exist simultaneously as one, perspective determines what's moving and what's not. And that's how God created the world. The world created human beings, right? But if it's true that the world created human beings, then the equal and opposite is also true. The world didn't create humans. And that's a fact. Why? Because human beings are the world. Since human beings are the world, when the world took the form of a human being, it didn't create anything because it's still itself. So the world created human beings and didn't create human beings at the same time because human beings aren't separate from the world. Human beings are the world. So both opposites exist simultaneously as one. From one perspective, the world created human beings. From another perspective, the world didn't, because human beings are the world. That's how God created the world as well. When God created the world, He created the world out of His own body. Just like the world created humans out of itself. The thing that makes up the human body is the world itself. The thing that makes up the world is God. It's the same process. That's why God is omnipresent. No matter where you go in this world, you will always be in the presence of God. That's what omnipresence means. If you're always in the presence of God, it means God is the world itself. God is the thing that drives the world. And the Bible tells you, God is the thing that holds the world together. God is the world itself. If God is the world itself, then it's the same process as a human being and the world. The world created humans, but since the world and human beings are the same, humans didn't get created. We're just the world. Likewise, God created the world out of His own body. And since God created the world out of His own body, since it's God's own body, then it's not the world, it is just God. Right? And that's why God states in the Bible, I create all existence because only I exist. Yes, God said that. I create all existence because only I exist. Don't you find that contradictory? How can you create all existence if you're the only thing that exists? That's exactly how this world works. The world creates all things because only the world exists. It's the same thing. The world created human beings, but since only the world exists, human beings are just part of the world. So the world didn't create anything. It is just the world there. It's the same thing. The world itself is God. So when I say the world itself is God, it's a fact. The world created humans. God created humans. There's no difference between the world and God, just like there's no difference between a human being and the world. It is one and the same. The thing that holds the world together is God. The thing that holds the human body together is the world. It's the same process. It's the same thing. So when God tells you, I create all things because only I exist, it's a fact. Because that's how the world creates things. The world creates things out of his own body. Atoms, human beings, plants, mushrooms, fungi, protists. These things were created out of the world's own body. Planets were created out of the world. Galaxies were created out of the world. Even the universe was created out of the world's own body. Because everything was created out of the world's own body, everything does not exist, only the world. The world creates all things within it because only the world exists, and that's a fact. God creates all things because only God exists. God created the world the way the way the world created you, through itself. Human beings were created through the world, and the world was created through God. It's the same process. When everything is you, you're the only thing that exists. Everything in this world is the world itself. That means the world is the only thing that exists. If the world is the only thing that exists, then the world is the only thing that is intelligent, not humans. The world is intelligent. That's why humans are intelligent. The world itself is God. The world itself is your creator. God is your creator. You can only exist through the world. And since the world is your creator, the world is God. That's why the world is omnipresent. That's why God is omnipresent. No matter where you go in this world, you will always be in the presence of God. You were created by God. And that's what the world is, God. The Bible isn't lying to you. The truth will always be the truth. You live in a world of contradictions. The world created everything. But because the world is the only thing that exists, the equal and opposite is also true. The world didn't create anything at all because only the world exists. God creates all things because only God exists. And that's a fact. The world creates all things because only the world exists. So that's it for today's podcast episode. I pray for everyone's safety and understanding. Amen.